Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Young Folks Podcast. So, this is something new that we were trying out. And before we get exactly into what this is, we're going to introduce, I want to introduce myself at least. And I am Jose Cordova, and I'm going to be one of the main hosts of the show.
And I'm Allie Johnson, and I am the other main host of the show. And each week we will be bringing on different people, so we'll mix it up a bit. But on a bi-weekly basis, for the time being at least, we'll be talking about entertainment and pop culture. We like to think we're fans of a lot of things, so why not discuss it on a more public basis? Yeah? Yeah? Agreed? Okay, guys. We'll give a rundown of what's happening on a week-to-week basis and try our very best to come across as eloquent, witty, and charming as hell. Please excuse us if we fail at all of the above. We're working on post-collegiate sleep schedules of stress and existential crises. We're going to talk about movies, television, any nerd meltdown that piques our fancy, and maybe even throw in a tune or a well-written book from time to time. We want to talk about everything. So, first things first, what are we checking out at the movies this week? Jose?
so I had a week where I was not able to make it to the local multiplex. So I'm going off the last thing that I saw, which is going to be my pick of what to see this weekend, because I think it's still going to be out, even though there's new releases this weekend, which is McFarland, USA, which I had a lot of fun with. But I believe you did have a chance to see one of the big releases. If not, you go see like everything. So, I think the biggest release this week was Cinderella, and I know you saw it. So, what did you think of Cinderella?
I loved Cinderella. Like, I genuinely loved it, and actually, it seems like critics are pretty much on board with it. I've seen a few naysayers about it not being feminist, which I disagree with, but that's an entirely different conversation. But I loved it, and maybe I was just feeling particularly nostalgic, but it also made me oddly emotional a lot. But I really liked it. If you're looking for like a spectacle movie this weekend, you should go see Cinderella because it has everything that makes you love going to the movies. It's something classical, but it's also new and fresh, and it's just designed beautifully. And King of the North, Richard Madden, just owns my heart right now for playing Prince Charming as well as he did. But yeah, no, so that's for it for the big movie. My own personal pick, if you're around any theaters that are more, I guess, independently based or more homegrown that have some of the smaller features, go and see What We Do in the Shadows because it's hilarious. It's that New Zealand, I think, production. Um, it's like the mockumentary about vampires.
Right.
It's absurd, and I saw it on like at like 11 a.m. last weekend. Didn't know what I was getting myself into, but it was hilarious. Like you won't see any other movies coming out this weekend that are quite like it. So if you get the chance to, you should really go and see it.
Cool. Let's see. I'm gonna pick your brain a little bit about this stuff since I didn't get to go out and see anything good. Um, what is it about Cinderella? So I've heard Cinderella is kind of an interesting, clearly drawing some inspiration from the classic animated one. What are the sort of updates here? What makes it just a straight up kind of remake?
The remake aspect would be Cinderella herself has a personality. So does Prince Charming. The fact that they aren't simply 2D cutouts from the original film was spectacular. Those are the things that strike me as the most different because, in all honesty, what made the movie kind of special was that it was such an homage to the original. When you see like with Maleficent or Snow White and the Huntsman, Alice in Wonderland, it's they want to take these childhood stories and turn them to be, or make them really gritty and dark, and like adults can like them too. And the fact is, adults liked them before, so if you treat it with maturity and you like treat the source material with respect and try to make a good movie, adults are still going to like it, even if there's a talking duck. So, but I really liked it, and I do think it's because of that. And Kate Blanchett also brought something new. The way she was written, she was given more depth and subtlety than most Disney villains, which is saying something because Disney villains are usually where Disney excelled in terms of writing female characters for a long time. So, but yeah, that was it on Cinderella.
Cool. I've heard that. Yeah, the cool thing is that we get a little bit more background on like the stepmother and the prince too, which makes him like a real person. So that's cool. I definitely still want to check that out at some point. I've been very busy at work, and so I've not had the time to really go do anything that fun outside of like my regular schedule. How's a very important question? How's Helena Bonham Carter in this? Is this like good Helena Bonham Carter, or is this like eh?
It's what you would expect out of Helena Bonham Carter, but not annoying version of her, such as in um 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 um
Alice?
oh, Alice in Wonderland. Yeah, it's more on the it's more like Sweeney Todd,
Okay, I really like Sweeney
Helena
Todd.
Bonham Carter. You know,
Yeah.
odd, still really odd, still in heavy makeup, but she's still acting, and it's fun, and it's not just the makeup wearing the actor, I guess. So
That's a good way of putting it.
I liked her, but they didn't overuse her either, which was nice.
Okay.
She's a cameo essentially.
Right. I really liked her in was it Les Mis? Is that what she was in with Sacha Baron Cohen? Yeah,
Yeah,
I thought that's like a
they
good dose of her like that.
um, for sure. Um, Also, just wanting to hit out there right now. It should be playing in theaters around the U.S. Not every theater, I believe. It's a limited run right now. The Hunting Ground, which is about sexual assault on uh, college campuses, and it's by the guy who did The Invisible War.
Okay.
So it's important for people to go out and support that one this weekend. I should be this weekend, so keep your eye out on that too. And Insurgent. You can go see Insurgent too.
Oh, that'll be everywhere. I think it's playing like on my toaster. So.
I loved Insurgent.
Oh. Okay. Well, we can get into that maybe on the next episode of this here show.
Sure.
Although, as like a preview, quick 2 second, 3 second. Beyond, you loved it. How does it compare to maybe the
It
first one?
was good, less Ellie Goulding, so not as good. It was pretty to watch. It was pretty dumb, but I enjoyed it immensely.
Cool. Speaking
That's
of,
about.
I was gonna say, speaking of pretty dumb, did you catch the new Liam Neeson movie?
No, I almost did that Run All Night one,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
almost, I instead skipped that one and then just went to Chappie afterwards, which I don't think I won out in that, and I think both are probably pretty bad.
All right. Um, cool. That's a cool rundown of some of the stuff that you've seen. Do you want to go to our picks of what to see this weekend and kind of elaborate on those a little bit?
Sure, sure. What's your pick?
So my pick, like I said, was McFarland USA. This is the last, maybe the second to last movie that I went to go watch in the theaters about a week or so ago. And I caught it actually late, which is why I'm not sure if it's still going to be out there, especially after this weekend's releases. But if you can catch it, I really recommend it. McFarland USA, for those who don't know, is the like second movie with I just forgot his name. The white guy. That's very descriptive, I know. So it's about a team of okay, so it's about a coach who starts a cross country running team at a high school in this town called McFarland in California, which is very kind of low income. It's in the California Central Valley, and all these kids are basically Mexican or Hispanic, and they and their parents work in the fields all day and do that, and that in that town that's pretty much all you do. And so Kevin Costner, thank you for reminding me. Kevin Costner plays this coach who comes in and decides that he can put together a cross country team because these kids basically run all day, and so he kind of wants to translate that into a sport because he needs something to do. Basically, he's gotten fired from like a bunch of jobs for being a too intense coach and for some other stuff and some bad luck. And so he arrives into this town, and basically it at that point becomes the classic kind of Disney story of underdog sports team, struggling and trying to win the big thing. But what I
With the
really
oldest high schoolers ever.
yes, like in all movies. I mean, the week before that, I saw The Duff, and they're all like 28 in that movie. So that's just the problem in Hollywood, I guess. But what I really liked about this movie is that I think, unlike Kevin Costner's other, like, I'm a slightly racist white guy that gets less racist movie, which was Black and White, this one is not nearly as tone deaf, and there's a lot less kind of like questionable things that his character has to say and things like that. But this one really struck me, being a Hispanic male and being from California and from a similar background to some of these kids. But what I really enjoyed about it is that you have, I think it's 5 or 6 teenage kids. They all kind of get fleshed out a little bit. One of them obviously is like the main guy. You get to learn more about his background. But it's just a very nice, very heartwarming movie. I always enjoy my sports underdog movies. And the movie actually, I think, looks really nice. This was directed by... Ooh, I forgot her name, but it's the director who did Whale Rider, which I also really enjoyed.
Which I just watched last weekend, so that's awesome.
Yeah, and so Nikki Caro is the director. Yes, she's a lady, and in Whale Rider. There's a lot of really good shots because they're shooting in New Zealand, and so you get like these awesome shots of like the water and what their the islands and stuff look like. And here she's shooting in this like really dry California landscapes, but she includes a lot of these big wide shots of these kids running up and down these like hills. They're basically just covered in dust, and you can just feel the heat coming off the screen. I thought it was just a really good looking movie. But that's my pick. I don't think the movie made that much money, so if you want to go support a movie, one directed by a woman, starring a lot of minority actors, I think that'd be pretty cool, and it's pretty good too.
Yeah, it's made 3.6 million. It says so
Definitely not a lot
far.
of money.
No, not for Disney. Um, no, yeah, nice. I definitely agree that people should go support it since it's directed by a woman. And I mean, like, what else do you have to see this week? The Gunman? No.
Yeah,
Like,
it's better than
I
Million Dollar Arm, if anybody saw that.
no.
Yeah.
I did not. I guess my picks, now that I'm thinking about it, because there's some newer, more indier, I guess, movies that could use your support. What We Do in the Shadows, which is by, I already mentioned, but it's by Jermaine Clement. It's a guy who did Flight of the Conchords.
I love that guy.
And I did not recognize him for the entire movie. It was hilarious. It's literally just a mockumentary and about different vampires who all room together and like get on each other's nerves, and there's a documentary crew. Like, it's absolutely ridiculous, but it's so worth it. And then the other one quickly is everybody should go and see 71, which was directed by Yan Demaj. It's starring Jack O'Connell, who I'm convinced is going to like take over the movie world in another year or two. He has done nothing but high quality work in the past year with this, Startup, and Unbroken. 71, if it had been released technically in 2015 this year, like I don't see anything surpassing it. Or aside from Mommy, but that's another thing. But it's great. It's about about a British soldier who accidentally is abandoned by his unit following a riot on the streets of Belfast in 1971, which is when there was a lot of civil unrest in Britain and in Ireland. So it's really interesting. It's really high tension, and it has a single shot that has stuck in my mind for weeks since I saw it, and it's still playing in some theaters. So see it. It's maybe one of the best depictions of the loss of innocence and the idea of boy soldiers being forced into war by older men who use them as tools. It's incredible. So people should go see it. Yeah.
Wow.
That's my pick.
High praise. Very, very high praise.
Yeah, so I think that's about it for the movies. Anything that sounds good. Support independent films, support women filmmakers. Why don't we move on to television?
Yeah. So for TV, we're trying out this thing that I call top three, and basically we're just picking our top three episodes of I guess last week or 2 weeks if we do bi-weekly for now. And it's just I like to say our favorite episodes because they might not necessarily be the best ones, but it definitely is the ones that stuck out to us. Um, so yeah, and Allie, do you want to run through your top three, and then I'll do mine, and then we can get into them.
Okay, yeah, my top three, and I did in the last week because I wasn't thinking straight and I didn't think about the idea of being able to use 2 weeks. So I did it since last Wednesday, and I did the 100 Blood Must Have Blood Part 2, which was the season 2 finale. I did The Flash Out of Time, which aired yesterday, and I am kind of cheating. And I did Broad City, the season 2 finale, which is airing tonight, and it was awesome. So
I
yeah,
I think that last one's fine. By the time this comes out, that will have aired already, so that's cool.
there,
With your
there.
future powers. So my top three, um, I have The Flash Out of Time, which, like we said, it was as of this recording last night's episode of The Flash, which was crazy. I did Last Week Tonight, episode 30. Those are very well titled, but that was the episode over the weekend on the 15th of March, I guess. And the my third one is the pilot for iZombie, which I really enjoyed. So yeah.
We just like 3 hours ago, so it's a
Oh
good
yeah.
time.
Yeah. Do you want to jump into the Flash since that's on both our lists? I think that's a natural one to start
Yeah,
with.
I think that's pretty appropriate considering it went balls out crazy in the last 10 minutes of the episode last night. I was enjoying the episode up until then. I wasn't loving it.
Yeah.
And then the last 10 minutes happened, and I was like, holy shit. Like, the amount of stuff that they did in the last 10 minutes is daunting, usually, to most TV shows to do in a few episodes or a season. So, that was crazy to me.
Yeah.
We can elaborate, but that's my initial opinion.
Oh,
Crazy.
I'm pretty much right there with you. I was watching it. There was a lot of little touches that I enjoyed. Overall, it was like a pretty interesting episode. There was some stuff actually that I really disliked. Um, and so I was like, oh, overall, this is shaping out to be like a decent episode of The Flash. And then you hit like the first minute or so of those last 10 minutes, and you're just like, whoa, some things are starting to go down.
It's
And then
when Joe's captured by the weather wizard, and the episode opens up with him tied on the pier and like bloody, and
yes,
you're like, oh, wait, this is a
and
serious moment.
yes, and he was messed up. His leg, I was like, whoa, okay.
Yeah, it's like the most they've shown, a side character, I guess, being really affected or by violence, which is weird because it's a superhero show, but it's the Flash, so they make it kind of
Silly,
friendly, I
yeah.
guess, audience friendly. But I was surprised, and then it all essentially blew up from there. Yeah, I think the moment that really shifted it, and the moment that's gonna like stick with me for a while, um, Cisco hasn't always been my favorite character on the show, just because at the beginning he was written as a walking, talking punchline more
Yeah.
than an actual character. But boy, did Carlos Valdez sell that scene with Harrison Wells. I was watching it with my sister and my boyfriend, and all of us were like, hands on our face, like, oh my god, they can't actually kill Cisco.
So
Like,
we should say, I should have put this at the top. Spoilers for just expect spoilers for every kind of TV in this
if
segment
you're
when we get to
listening
it.
to the podcast, expect spoilers.
Yes, just putting
It's
that
not
out there.
yet. Like,
Yeah, we will have no reservations, and yeah,
we'll
just
put
for
in
the
the
future
book.
too. For the future
But yeah,
too.
that moment when Harrison Wells sticks his hand into Cisco's chest. Um,
Oh yeah,
yeah, we
I
were
freaked out.
like, Oh my god. And it was his like little crying face. I don't know, Carlos Valdez MVP of the last couple episodes. Like he's just been destroying it as Cisco and I never expected it and I'm so happy. And him and Harrison Wells going off together was awesome just because they're my two favorite characters right now. Yeah.
Yes, I'm very happy with how interesting and kind of important Cisco has been. I mentioned I was just gonna say, yeah, I mentioned it earlier. I am a Hispanic male, so I always enjoy seeing characters that are also Hispanic males because we don't get to see a lot of them, and so just the inclusion of Cisco was cool to me. And then I didn't mind his character. I can sometimes be a little enjoy my puns myself in real life and all that, so I was on board with him and him naming the characters and all that. But they definitely have made him a lot more interesting recently, and they've used him in a really interesting way. I think he's become, like you said, just a lot more fleshed out and a lot more.
He's the Felicity of the show.
Yeah, you think he's breaking out? I think so.
He's the heart of the show. Like I think everybody expected it to be Caitlin because it's the the girl scientist on the show who won't be the actual love interest like Laurel and whatnot. But I really think Cisco might be Felicity in The Flash. Wish I had written about that now.
Well,
but yeah.
I hope that doesn't continue to be the thing because I don't like what Felicity has become on the show or what they've turned her into.
I mean, like the general idea.
Yes. Breakout character in a way.
Into the show.
Yeah. But no, that episode was crazy. I love the. So I think we were talking off air during the day after I watched it, and I was like, they went all in. Because they did. They've embraced the comic bookness so much. And so much so that it's starting to make Arrow feel weird because I'm like, you guys exist in the same place, and Arrow feels like it's so afraid of like jumping into anything kind of weird.
I know that, but I also love Arrow. So I don't know if afraid is the right word. I think it's just their characters don't have superpowers.
That's
so
true.
It will feel silly to have other superpowered beings going around while Oliver is shooting arrows. But I get what you mean. And also, it's worth pointing out that the visual effects were pretty on point last night. The tidal wave, the way that the weather wizard was conjuring lightning in the police station.
Yeah.
Like, who would have guessed at the beginning? I think that was one of the biggest concerns most people had with The Flash being made into a show was the idea of how are they going to make any of this look more than cheesy? Because they're on a CW budget, and it's hard. And when we first saw the suit, even, we were like, okay, that looks pretty costume store, bargain bin-ish. But in motion, and once everything kind of starts getting into place, it's a real show. And it shows in a place where they have to juggle the emotional moments and the writing and the comic book lore and then the visual effects that are crazy. Like, again, the tidal wave was nuts. But yeah, so I just think that's worth pointing out just because they are doing some fantastic work in the special effects team. Great episode.
Yeah. And I think I'll just leave it off so we can jump on to something else and say friggin' time travel. We finally hit some time travel, which is such a... The Flash is my favorite DC character, and time travel and stuff like that is so intertwined with what that character does and what happens to him and stuff. So, and
the fact that he does it accidentally rings so true for the character as well. Like, what? Oh shit!
Yeah,
like it's fantastic.
I thought it was also a neat way for them to do kind of some crazy stuff, and then, if necessary, backtrack a little bit. But just the fact that the impact of it, I think, was not lessened at all. But yeah, do you want to talk about... Let's do one of yours and then one of mine. So how's the 100? As someone who watched, like, the first half of Season 1 and hasn't finished anything yet.
Finish Season 1.
Okay, and feel free to spoil stuff. It doesn't really bother me that much.
Well, I just think it's a fantastic show. I think, I guess it did in its season finale more than I've seen in most. It's so daring to the point of it does things that Game of Thrones does. It does things that Breaking Bad did. I'm not saying it's comparable in terms of quality, but to see a show that's as daring as that on CW at at a 9 o'clock time slot is impressive. However, quick note: at this point, I might put it up there with the same quality Game of Thrones. Another topic, but it was crazy the amount of things that went down, and a big theme that was hammered home was the idea that nobody's innocent, and especially nobody's innocent in war, and everybody makes compromises and everybody makes bad decisions. And the lead character, Clark Griffin, on the show, is such a powerful female character. And no, the episode was great because it was a culmination of everything that had been happening all season. It finally gave us a really emotional moment between Clark and Bellamy, which has the two best actors on the show interacting again after like 6 episodes where they weren't. But yeah, essentially, I loved the episode because it's one of the best season finales I've ever seen. That about wraps it up. I'm
Cool.
sorry it took so long for you to get to that point, but that's about it.
No, that's cool. Yeah, you and I have talked about the CW and how awesome that network has gotten. And so far, the first 2 things we've talked about have been CW.
They've earned some goodwill with me as of late. They embrace genre shows. They have a show that has some of the best female characters on television running all the storylines. Like, yeah, no, I'm pretty much on board with trying out any show they put out, unless it's, Supernatural, which, no. No. But what about your pick? Let's keep it on the CW train for a second. How about?
Sure. Yeah, so iZombie premiered, last night, I think, as of this recording, so Tuesday. I am a huge Veronica Mars fan. I love that show so much. I was a Kickstarter backer of the movie. I went and saw it at midnight that night. Whole thing. I have the novel that he wrote afterwards, continuing the story after the movie. So I'm all in on Veronica Mars. And so I was very, very interested to see what what's his name? The lead singer of this band that I was getting confused with, Rob Thomas, was gonna do for his next show. And so iZombie is really interesting. Did you watch it?
Yeah, I watched it a couple hours ago.
So I liked it. Yeah, I really liked the pilot too. It's hard for me to shake trying to make comparisons to Veronica Mars, because I think it has some similar elements.
The witty lead blonde character who solves crime.
Yes.
That might be part of it. But part of it. I couldn't get behind Veronica Mars.
Really? Oh, that's interesting. We should have
it. Really alarming, considering I'm all about supporting TV shows, movies about powerful, independent women. But God, I couldn't get into it. And I tried. I watched a season. And I still was, and I marathoned 10 episodes in a day once when I was having one of those, day moments where you throw everything away. But, yeah, I was like, I just can't. But this, I think, is cute and charming. And I like the lead girl more than I ever liked Kristen Bell. So.
See, I'm a huge Kristen Bell fan. Or at least in that role, I think she was. I don't think she's ever done anything as good as she was in that movie or in that show. But the whole Veronica Mars thing could be a whole separate discussion. But so iZombie, what I really liked, I think it does some interesting things with the kind of. I think it could do some interesting things with the procedural elements. I can't do a straight up procedural show anymore, like your CSIs, your NCISs. I just can't anymore. Most of them are too formulaic now. The ones that are just straight up. But I don't mind procedural elements in a lot of my shows. I really like Elementary on CBS. That definitely has some of those elements, but also kind of intertwines them with character work between the main characters. I think this one has a really nice. Okay, I think the strength of this show is that it takes 2 things that to me are kind of worn out, and kind of blends them together in this new way that makes it really interesting to me. Is that is one, zombies, which are played out as hell, and Case of the Week shows, which are also played out as hell, but are not going to go anywhere either. And I
They
think,
also trope really quick with having spoilers, by the way, with her work.
her
What am I
boss,
thinking of? Her colleague
yeah,
finding out that she's a zombie and being totally cool with it. Like,
yeah,
that takes away, usually it'd take a season for anybody to find out, and it'd be a big deal when it was relieved, and he was just like, oh my god, this is awesome, you eat it with hot sauce, that's crazy. Like, yeah,
yeah.
sorry, I cut you off.
No, yeah, and I think what it does is it does the zombie thing, puts a little bit of humor into that. Almost in a not exactly the same way that something like Shaun of the Dead did, but it really takes it into a different direction, which is something I hadn't really seen before. She calls herself, what is it, a zombie, something existential crisis, I think is what she says, or like a zombie. I forgot the term, but she basically, the zombiness she has kept it in control, and it's just kind of made her really passive, which is really funny to me. And then the procedural elements I think are mixed really well with having her that, giving her that power of eating brains, then gives her partial memories and the characteristics of the person, which I think also are going to be a really fun thing for the show to play with. The cast so far seems pretty good. There's a few people I think that need to get fleshed out, mainly in her like old life, which are like, you know, her roommate, her mom, her ex-fiance, whatever. That was like what I cared about the least. What did you think about them?
Yeah, no, that I just didn't care. You know, whenever it was her and her colleague, that's when I really enjoyed it the most.
Yeah.
The thing that I found interesting about it, to me, and is going to make me keep watching, is that it reminded me of Pushing Daisies a little bit, which is one of my favorite shows of all time. It had a Warm Bodies sensibility a little bit to
Right.
it,
I enjoyed that movie.
and also, not as big because what this show that I'm about to mention did it in a much greater allegorical shit, said that wrong, but you know what I mean. Way, like it was very theme heavy and social justice heavy, but in the flesh, it was this little BBC show that had 3 episodes first season, 6 episodes second, then got canceled, and it's a shame. But it kind of reminds me a little bit about that too, just because it's all about, you know, the actual effects on you and like what do you do when this happens instead of just from the human point of view of they're all attacking and they're evil pitchforks. So, and again, the lead girl's freaking charming. So
She
I'll
is.
I'll stand for her. Like, I like her.
Yeah. She's a relative unknown. I think she's done a few things. I was looking at her IMDb, and I guess she was in a couple episodes of Masters of Sex, which is a show that one of those perpetual, I keep meaning to catch up on that shows.
Hard one to
Um,
catch up on. Can't
apparently,
marathon that.
yeah, apparently she's on Once Upon a Time as Tinkerbell, which I can see that, um, and random other stuff. I know she was a Power Ranger at one point. I think I actually recognized her from that because I used to keep up with Power Rangers for a lot longer than I should have.
Well, now everybody knows that, and it's totally acceptable.
Yeah. Moving
So
on.
yeah, it's yeah.
Yeah, I think it's good. I think people should check it out.
No, yeah. Okay. So my last pick for the best episode, or my personal best episode of the past week, is Broad City. And if you're not watching Broad City currently, shame on you. Go do so. You're missing a lot of things that are awesome, because Broad City is relatable in a way that most sitcoms, especially most half-hour sitcoms, are not. And Abby Jacobson and Alana Glazer are two of the funniest people on TV, if not the funniest people on TV. They are remarkable, and I love them so much, and I love their friendship on the show. I love how it's a show that has boundless energy, and will do just about anything to get a laugh in terms of visual style, and like visual sight gags. And I love it when a show does visual sight gags. I feel like it's a lost tradition, something that Edgar Wright specializes in. But yeah, and I think that, us millennials, we complain about TV not relating to us or comedies not relating to us, and here's a show essentially handmade and gift wrapped for us. It gets our age, it's written by people our age, and it has that mindset of our age that shows that TV shows are going to evolve with us. Thank God. But the season 2 finale was great, and it had everything that makes me love the show. It had a focus on the two girls and their friendship, while also the wacky hijinks they get into in New York City. I loved it, and I laughed a lot at it. And season 2 has just been incredible. It upped the game after season 1, which was a hard thing to do because season 1 was one of the best debuts I've ever seen on TV. So if you do not watch Broad City, once again, go and do so. You're missing out. It's 10 episodes a season, barely a half hour. Really, you could be doing less productive things with your time. So, go do it.
Yeah, I'm definitely guilty of that. I think I'm like on episode
Oh,
3 or 4 of season 1. So I will have to get to. There's just so many good things to watch. But yeah, so my last one was the most recent episode of Last Week Tonight, which is John Oliver's show that he's done since he left The Daily Show and did some other stuff. I've been loving this show so much because I think, you mentioned young people, and I think as young people, one thing we need to do more is get engaged with like the world around us, and whether that's like politically or socially or whatever. Obviously, it's very important.
Damn straight.
Yeah, and it's so hard for me because I think it's just hard for me to get myself engaged that way, and I think obviously The Daily Show and something like that helps. I think John Oliver has found a way to extend that, not formula, but that genre into a different thing by doing a once a week show. And I love his format where he'll talk about a couple of things that are really important and put like a really entertaining spin on stuff, and then kind of devote a good 15-minute chunk to whatever he feels is like an important issue or something that bothers him or something like that. He's done some really good ones in season 1, I guess, which was like last year. He did a really, really good one on the U.S. prison system. He did a really, really good segment on the pageant system that is still like a thing. And just a lot of stuff. He just uncovers a lot of information that I think is like both appalling and then also so ridiculous that it's funny, especially the way he presents it. I really enjoyed the most recent one. He went after the NCAA, which is basically the college sports organization that does all the sports for colleges and universities in the U.S. And so I love watching sports. I've always enjoyed it. I play a couple. But the NCAA has some really, really interesting policies, I guess, where you could say. And he basically just tore into them for the way that they treat their student athletes and the way that they try to operate as a so-called non-profit organization that somehow signs multi-million-dollar deals with with networks to showcase their games and all that. Just a lot of stuff that, just like with everything else, when he lays it out, makes no sense, and he very smartly uses people saying things and then catches them contradicting themselves and other things, and just kind of makes you think about stuff and presents it in this really funny way. I think the NCAA, for a lot of people who enjoy sports, don't always realize kind of the messed up things that they do to some of these students who are like 18, 19, 20-year-olds who are basically playing under the same kind of weight and pressure a lot of times as professional athletes, and yet have a lot of times very little benefits, and then what benefits they do have can get kind of muddled because of the way that people will enjoy or want to enjoy their sports and things like that. So I just thought it was one of his better segments that he did this week. And that show is just, it's also like 30 minutes long only, or barely. So I don't know how he finds time to really just tear things and companies and people apart, and yet still make it really funny. Do you watch Last Week Tonight at all, Allie?
I watched the clips that managed to surface online.
That's the other thing that's really cool is pretty much all of these longer segments HBO just puts on YouTube. And I thought that would be something that maybe they would stop after the first season because it seemed like maybe it was just to gain traction for the show. But I like that they're still putting them up. And so even if you
Well,
don't
they know
have...
who the audience is.
Yeah,
You know?
exactly.
Like, they know that the people who are watching are the people who are going to be, sharing the clips later on Facebook and whatnot. So I think that actually makes sense, and I like it. I like that it's like, these are important issues, and just because you can't afford HBO doesn't mean you shouldn't watch them.
Yeah, and
So,
I think
that's neat.
I think this show has the potential to do some of the things that Jon Stewart and Stephen Colbert did on their show which is actually somehow find a way to mobilize people and enact actual real change in the world via basically a half hour of comedy, which I think is just remarkable.
For sure. Yeah, no, I agree. I like it a lot. I like just how angry and flustered he is all the time. Um, but yeah, so television's been good this week, apparently. Some duds, but that's okay. Yeah.
Cool. So now we're going to hit video games really quick. Allie's not much of a video game player by her own account. And I don't play nearly as much as I used to and or would like to, I guess. But I think, Allie, you had a quick hit that you wanted to do. Do you want to do that first or last?
Okay, yeah. There's a video game called Hotline Miami 2. Have you heard of it?
Yes, which surprises me so much that that's the one you're picking. No, go for
Wait,
it,
no.
because this is interesting.
Reason. They give a trigger warning at the beginning of the game. And they say that there is sexual assault in this game, and you can either play without it, or if you're fine, you're fine. And I still don't like that there's sexual assault in the game, but I don't play the game, and I don't know why that's happening. And from what I am reading, it's like supposed to be like painting how awful we are with the glamorization of violence and whatnot. Maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah.
So maybe there's a purpose to it. But the idea, and it's the idea that they're giving people the choice and that they're warning ahead of time that this is triggering content, that makes me be like, good for you. It's why I'm playing Dragon Age, because it's a feminist video game. So
Yeah,
that's what
Hotline
it is.
Miami is an interesting series. Like the guys, I think when they made the first one, cited like Drive and like Cocaine Cowboys, I think, as like partial inspirations for like the kind of like weird, crazy tone that they were trying to shoot for. So yeah, it's just it's a very interesting, very like kind of like hyper violent and like that type of show. I think they were going for like I don't know, but they're interesting little games. So that's interesting. That's not what I expected at all. But that's cool. So the one that I've been playing, the one that I'm going to touch on a little bit this week, is because I actually played something new-ish for once, is this game called Helldivers, which is out right now. It's developed by Arrowhead Game Studios. If you guys are not familiar with that name, they did the game Magica, which was a PC game where you played as little wizard guys. And really the fun of that game was kind of this crazy multiplayer, friendly fire chaos stuff, and a lot of that same DNA is in Helldivers. So Helldivers is out right now on... I think it's a PlayStation exclusive, so you can get on PS4, PS3, PS Vita. And so what it is, it's a top-down twin-stick shooter, which, for Allie's sake, is a game actually kind of similar to Hotline Miami. I think that one's a top-down as well. But you're basically like a little guy who's running around and you're shooting monsters and robots and stuff. It looks a lot more old school than some of the stuff that's out now. But I love this game because... Arrowhead Games has a really, really good sense of humor with their games. This one is very, I don't know, like Starship Trooper-esque or inspired. So you play as these Helldivers, which are basically these like space soldiers, and you're going out to defend your home planet, which is called Super Earth, from the 3 different factions, which are like robots, these weird like tech aliens, and then these bug-like creatures that are called bugs. and there's a lot of stuff from the intro cinematic. You can kind of see where the inspiration from Starship Troopers is, and it has a lot of kind of like Paul Verhoeven esque semi-satirical elements where like your guys, as they shoot around and like destroy and kill these bugs, will say like um they'll say like "die for democracy" or stuff like that, which is really really silly and really dumb. But the really fun thing about this is in the co-op and the multiplayer. So you want to get, if you want to get the most fun out of this game, you want to grab like a couple of your buddies and get online, and you're basically running around in these. So you pick a mission and you get sent off to this map, which is procedurally generated. So you kind of usually know you're gonna have one, two, or three objectives, and you have to complete those, and then get to your drop ship and go back to complete your mission and leave. But you're basically running around trying to shoot all this stuff, and like all of Arrowhead games, you can hurt any of your teammates at any point in time. So if you shoot in their direction, you're gonna shoot them. If you do anything else in their direction, it's gonna hurt them. And so the game
That's
becomes
so frustrating.
it is, but I think with the
No,
game,
I am so bad. The reason I can't play video games is because I can't do the goddamn point of view thing. Like, controlling your point of view and whatnot, and like trying to be like, I don't know, shooting things with the other hand. Like,
yeah.
I got motion sickness from doing it so badly
So
the other
way
week.
this game works is, imagine you're looking over the top of like a tabletop game, like miniature games.
Yeah.
Like that. So you're looking basically over the top of that, and you have one stick that just, if you push up, your guy moves up in the box, down in the box, right in the box. So you're not looking through his eyes, right? You're looking at the top of this little guy. And then the other stick, if you point to the right, he shoots to the right. If you point to the left, he shoots to the left. So I think it's a lot more intuitive than something like that. And so I think that's one of the things that makes it really fun to get into with your friends. The other big gameplay thing that they have are these things called stratagems, which are basically just like power-ups and other equipment that you call in. So you kind of do this little sequence that's almost like DDR, where you hit arrows in a certain direction, and you get this little grenade thing, and you shoot it out, and it'll say like, in 20 seconds you get like a turret that's going to fall down from the sky. And so when these things drop onto the battlefield, if your friends happen to be standing under where that thing's going to fall, it's going to squish them. And so you get into this really fun, chaotic thing of like, you guys are being surrounded from like different sides by different enemies, and everybody's trying to shoot these things. And as you're trying to shoot across, you're also trying to shoot the bad guys, but not shoot your friend at the same time. And then you're also trying to keep an eye out on like, is anybody calling in anything? Like, is something going to come flying out of the sky and crush me as I'm trying to do this very important thing? Did someone call in like an airstrike? And so our bomb's about to like go through here, and do we need to duck and get out of the way? It just becomes really chaotic and really fun. And if you get squashed, it's really easy for your friends to have you back like within 30 seconds. So it's not a huge bummer if you get killed, because you can be right back in fairly soon. And so it just becomes this really fun kind of juggling act of a lot of different things, and it gets chaotic and fun. And most of the missions will last you anywhere from like 5 to 15 minutes. So if you want to get in for a couple games with your friends and do that, you can do that. It's really fun. It's crazy. It's a little hard by yourself as you progress through, so I definitely recommend grabbing a couple buddies and seeing if you guys can pick this up. I think at the point that we're recording this, it's not on sale anymore, but even at full price, it's a $20 game. So it's not a huge investment. You're not going to be going out and spending $60 for a copy of this. It is, I think, digital only. So you pay $20, you get your download of your game. So yeah, I definitely recommend it. If you're into any of the RPG elements that have become kind of standard in like the Call of Duty games now, where as you level up, you can kind of unlock different perks and different equipment stuff. That's all present here, and it's all done pretty well, I think. As you go forward, you unlock new stuff, and it's actually useful. And you start getting like little mech suits that you can walk around in and shoot stuff. You get little tanks. You can get new crazy weapons, new crazy grenades, new turrets, things like that. It's very crazy, but very fun, especially with friends, which is something that I always enjoy now. I believe you can do couch, and you can definitely do online multiplayer. That's how I played with my friends. We're all in like different places. And then if you want to get together a couple of people on couch co-op, you can do that as well. And I think you can even mix the two, which I always enjoy, because playing video games is fun. Playing video games with friends is even more fun. So that's Helldivers. That's what I've been playing, and it's been out for about a week and a half or so. So it's definitely out there. There's still active community, so definitely check that out.
So, I guess to wind this down a tad, each week we're going to try to talk about well, we're definitely talking about movies. Scratch that. We're going to try to talk about books, music, but it's not exactly either of our strengths, I guess, in terms of knowledgeable about what's current, I suppose. I'm a little bit more so on music than I am on books. On books, I pretty much just pick whatever has the most fantasy-like cover and run with it. So, but yeah, Jose, have you listened to anything good in the past week or two?
Yeah, I don't know how late I am to this train because you said that you're kind of okay on keeping up with music. I am woefully behind on both books and music, but there was a video that went around of this song called what's the name of this song? Shut Up and Dance by Walk the Moon, which I think is a fairly recent song. Hopefully I'm not too late to this party. But I don't think it's the official music video or anything like that, but someone did a super cut of people dancing in movies and set it to this song and kind of managed to edit it together in a way that it seemed like all the characters were dancing to this song. And this is like, I mean, we're talking like dancing from Pulp Fiction, from Big, from 13 Going on 30. That French movie called like The Impossible, no, I forgot what it's called. But just all these really different things. And I really enjoyed the song, and I was like, oh, it sounded like a maybe older song. But I did some quick Googling and found that it's actually pretty recent. I actually heard it on the radio on my way to work yesterday, I think. So I was like, oh, maybe this is a modern song. And so I've been listening to this band, Walk the Moon. They have some very fun, catchy, up-tempo kind of indie rock, I guess you would say pop rock songs. And I always enjoy that stuff. So that's Walk the Moon, and the song that I've been listening to a lot is Shut Up and Dance, I believe is what it's called.
Nice.
So yeah, that's my music.
I have not heard of either of those things, so I guess I will be Googling too later.
Yeah, Shut Up and Dance. Specifically that video, I think is the best way to take that song in.
My big find of the week, I guess, is a Canadian electronica duo called Purity Ring, and they have a new album out called Another Eternity. It's on Spotify, because that's where I get all my music. But yeah, out of all of them, Purity Ring's definitely the one this week that I've been like listening to, that movie scores. So Purity Ring's the one I'm going to recommend because I don't sound as much of a nerd. But
movie scores are cool though.
They are to me. That's why I have a playlist. Follow me. But I have a weird musical taste, I suppose. I think I'm pretty eclectic actually, but I tend to veer towards things that are either kind of electronica with a really synthesized female voice, or
it's a very specific taste, by the way.
It is very specific, but if you knew what I listened to, it'd make sense. And then I really like soul, like old soul, old funk, that type of stuff. And then I will listen to Green Day. So I'm all over the place. But no, if you like bands like Churches or Naked and Famous, or even anything like James Vincent McMorrow, which is synth heavy with a melodic voice over it, you'll like Purity Ring. It's poppy but fun and not generic poppy, I guess. And there's nothing wrong with generic pop, but if that's not your thing, Purity Ring kind of takes it and like tilts it on its head, I guess. So listen to it. It's fun. It's not exactly what you hear all the time, I guess.
Cool. So that was Purity Ring, and what was the album?
Another Eternity.
Cool. And mine was Walk the Moon, and I think the album with Shut Up and Dance on it is called Talking Hard, and apparently it's from September of 2014, so I may be late to it, but...
Mine's from this month, so I beat that.
Check. Yes. Fine. Show it off. Show up.
Always do. But, Okay, books, which I'm definitely behind in, I think. So you should say yours first while
Uh,
I look up the of mine.
well, I am also very behind, but I know the title of mine, and it's called Fangirl, and this is from. The name of the author is Rainbow Roll, I think is how you pronounce it. The book is from 2013. I recently started reading or listening, I guess, on through Audible, which is something I recommend to people if you want to read and do other things at the same time. It's an interesting book. I was a lot more into it. I'm about 3/4 of the way through, so I'm not even done yet. But it's about a girl who writes fan fiction for a fantasy series that's very Harry Potter-esque, and she writes kind of like slash fiction of like the two male leads in the series. So this is very like way down the nerd rabbit hole, I think. But it was a pretty interesting thing to begin with. It's like very typical young adult stuff. It's her first year in college, and she has these things, but she's a very like awkward and socially inept girl who has a twin who's the complete opposite. And despite that very generic sounding, I don't know, description, I thought that the beginning, the first half or so of the book was pretty interesting, and I think progressed at a decent clip. I'm starting to lose a little bit of interest in the book right now, but that could just be, I don't know, that the book is turning into something a little bit different than what I thought it was going to be. But it's been enjoyable enough, and if you read it, I'm sure you would probably breeze through it a lot faster than it would be with me listening to like a 10-hour version of it or whatever. But yeah, so that's Fangirl by Rainbow Roll. I think she also wrote Eleanor and Park. So if you are familiar with that one and you want to check out another one of her books, that's Fangirl.
Nice. I am gonna check out that Eleanor and Park one. I probably won't be getting into Fangirl anytime soon. It just doesn't seem what's up my alley, I suppose. Because right now I'm reading The Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss, and it came out in 2007. Because I read current things. I really like it so far. It's kind of, but it's exactly what I like in a book because I do gear towards fantasy novels just because there's something epic about them, and I feel like it's the books that I truly get sucked into and kind of tunnel vision the rest of the world, like I'm only focused on the book and what's happening. It's been my lunch break book this week, so I go to Starbucks and I read and I pretend I don't have to go back to work. And it it's essentially has the same makings of any other fantasy novel, mysterious hero, and his story of going from underdog to who he is now, but the difference is that he's telling the story himself, and he's essentially relaying his life to somebody who's chronicling it, who goes around their world and finds people who are essentially just stories and rumors and finds out if they're true or not. And he essentially is like, I'll set the story straight, but I'm going to tell it, and I'm going to give you 3 days to write my story. And this is just the first book, and I think he's only released the second, and there's going to be 3, and so each day is a book of him telling his story. So when I found that out, I was a little disgruntled because I was like, what? I have to read about this guy being a tween for 700 pages? But it's actually pretty funny, and there's a lot more wit in this book than I find in most fantasy books. So if that's kind of what you're looking for, and you're like me and you hate your job and you just need to like read something to pretend that it doesn't exist, read The Name of the Wind. It's funny, and the hero is charming. So
Cool. Yeah,
that's me over.
fantasy isn't always funny per se, so that's cool.
Yeah, no. But I think that's about it. Yeah, so yeah, that's a wrap folks. Thanks for tuning in to our very first podcast for the website. We're very excited. I hope you enjoyed it. Or conversely, if you're like me, I hope you liked whichever 5-minute segment you chose to tune into. Let us know in the comments what you liked and or what you didn't like, but be easy on us. We're writers and therefore emotionally fragile. We'll be joined by one of our fellow writers on the next installment, so hopefully you'll listen again. And make sure to follow us on at TYF Official and our Facebook page for updates on all your entertainment needs. And Jose, where do we find you?
I'm on Twitter at Jose Cordova, which is just my name. Very simple.
And find me at Allison AJ, also very simple.
Yeah, cool. So thank you guys for joining us on this ride, and we will see you next time.